What's going on, fight fans? Welcome back to another episode of Pure Evil MMA. I'm your host, as always, Evil Eddie. Make sure you guys subscribe down below because we do this every week and after every big UFC event, even if it's just a Fox Fight Night card, or even we just did CES. So make sure you guys subscribe down below. We get all the latest fight news, and it's always going down at mymmanews.com. If you are new to Pure Evil MMA, make sure you guys subscribe down below, not only here on YouTube, but also on iTunes, PODBEAN, Stitcher. And you can find all of the latest Pure Evil MMA content at mymmanews.com. Guys, UFC 221 is finally in the books, and we have a lot to talk about because looking forward at this fight on paper, it didn't really get many fight fans or even casuals that excited about it. But once it was said and done with, there's a lot to discuss, a lot to pick apart here from this fight night, and I feel like a lot of people might have missed it. So that's the case. If you didn't want to dish out $60 and watch the pay-per-view, that is totally understandable. And we're going to give you the complete recap, or at least the most memorable moments of UFC 221 that we'll most likely remember down the road somewhere. Make sure you guys are also following me on Twitter at evil_echo. We are going to be doing a giveaway with iTunes reviews. So all you have to do is simply subscribe on iTunes, leave us a review, and I'm going to be picking 2 people for a surprise giveaway. So I don't want to ruin the surprise, but it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun, and everybody has a chance to win. And all you have to do is leave a simple review. Guys, before we recap UFC 221, just a quick heads up, teespring.com. We have Valentine's Day coming up, and if you want to get your loved ones, I know it's on Wednesday, but you can get them a little something extra that you can say, hey, it's gonna be here in a couple days late, but it's coming. Pure Evil MMA has new merch up at teespring.com/pureevil. So if you want to get new hoodies, new t-shirts, the summer's coming, new tank tops for the gym, all new gear is up. And thank you for everybody who's ordered the last run on teespring.com. We shipped out a lot of t-shirts. People are buying mugs, stickers, and that's another thing, $4 for stickers. Everybody can afford something in the Pure Evil MMA merch. I made it so that everybody, even if you don't have much money, $4, get a sticker, throw it on your laptop, on the back of your phone, wherever you want to stick it. So and also, Bellator this weekend, well, not this weekend, but on Friday, I will be at Mohegan Sun Arena. So anybody on the East Coast that is going to be at Mohegan Sun, if you listen to this podcast, I'll be walking around. I'll be on press row. You can look for me on Paramount Network or on Spike TV, whatever you want to consider it. But if you see me walking around the casino and you want to say hi, take a picture, that is fine. I'm working, but I'm also there to have fun. I'm there as a fight fan as well. Now, I might be working, but I'm also there to enjoy the fight. Enjoy the fight fan village as well. I love what Bellator does for the fight village. And if you've never been to a live MMA event, Bellator is a great one to go to. And if you've only even been to your local cards, like your CES, your Lion Fight, stuff like that, you don't get the full experience of what it's like at a real big MMA event. And Bellator might not be the biggest, but they are up there with entertaining the fans before they enter the Coliseum. So little quick hint, if you've never been to this, you're gonna walk in, you're gonna get your ticket, and you can meet some of the ring girls. You can meet some of the legends out there. You can meet Hoist Gracie, Shamrock. You can meet Chael Sonnen, Rampage. They usually have like 2 or 3, usually 2, big names out there to meet the fans, sign autographs for free. So Bellator is always doing a good job, at least when I go. So I'm looking forward to this one. We have Matt Mitrione going up against Big Country Roy Nelson. I'm going to be there Wednesday to interview them. They're doing some media scrum, so we have that to look forward to. One last thing. Surprise guest either this week or next week on Pure Evil MMA. We're going to have Saul Rogers from Ultimate Fighter. He was on Team McGregor. He's going to be joining us here on Pure Evil MMA, and also Lauren Murphy. And she's been in the UFC for how long now, and was also just on this recent season of Ultimate Fighter. And you guys might remember her maybe by Lauren, maybe by Barb. One of their two. So we have a lot to talk about with Lauren and also Saul, who really just disappeared after Ultimate Fighter. We know something happened with his green card. He actually was one of the finalists, and they replaced him with Ryan Hall. We're going to have to check in with Saul, see what's going on, see what the holdup is, why he's not in the UFC yet, because there are so many people out there that are just so on board with him on that season, and then he's just gone. Same with Ryan Hall, who won the season in general. I think he's fought one fight since winning that season. It was against Gray Maynard. But that's enough of that. Let's talk about UFC 221. So guys, we have some UFC 221 Pickem announcement winners, and we're going to be doing that at the end of today's podcast. So let's jump into things. Immediately, my first thought going into this before the fights even started was you have Jon Anik and Jimmy Smith. Now, this is Jimmy Smith's first time doing live fights, right? It's the first time doing live fights. I thought it was kind of weird that they picked Jon Anik. Now, it could have just been me, but as the night went on, it felt like Jon Anik's, his head just wasn't there, or just wasn't really mixing with Jimmy Smith. I don't know if he has an issue with Jimmy Smith. I don't know if Jimmy Smith's breath smell. I don't know if something happened before to Jon Anik, whether his mom yelled at him. I have no idea. But I just picked up on that vibe, and I want to know if any of you guys picked up on it. What did you think of Jimmy Smith's first live performance for covering the fights? Do you want to see him and Jon again? Because I don't. I think Jimmy Smith would do a lot better with anybody else but Jon Anik, and I'm a huge Anik fan. I just think he works much better with Joe Rogan, and he didn't have any comment on it. I saw a lot of people loving it, a lot of people not so into it, saying that they're both contradicting one another. So I want to know what you guys think. So let me know on Twitter at evil_echo. That's EVIL_ECCO. All right, so let's talk about some fights here. Going into this, the performance of the night bonuses went to Israel, which was the big debut of the night, right? He had 11 fights going into this. He beat Melvin Gillard. He had 11 finishes in those 11 fights, and everybody was wondering what's going to happen when he makes his debut. And it wasn't the most exciting debut, but I'll give him this. His post-fight speech. That's the new era. That's what people need to understand. You don't need to imitate Conor McGregor. Do your own thing. Be genuine. This young guy, there was a lot riding on it, and I understand why he didn't want to throw it all in and be too risky, but there were a couple things in his fight that made it fun. It just seemed like he is just so fluent and just making it up as he goes. Like, he has the game plan, but like even the things with like the barrel roll, he barrel rolled to get out of like a single leg. I thought that was interesting. It could have worked for him, could have worked against him. In this case, he was able to escape. It was a little silly. He could have ended up on the bottom, but was able to escape. Stuff like that. I like seeing that. And moving on with the fight, his opponent wasn't the easiest opponent. He might not be well known. He might have fought the hardest competition, but I believe his opponent was like 11-1 going into this fight, and his grappling was really an issue for Israel. And I had a lot of people tweeting me, making fun of me, because after this fight, I wanted to ask everybody, is Israel the next big star? And I got so many tweets from people laughing. The tweet that Belvin Flipmunk sent me, I believe it was Belvin or BLT or Matt or somebody, that said, Ed, do you realize they just said Israel big star? And then they sent me a gif of the Israel flag. So I'm just an idiot for that one. They're not catching that. But guys, do you think that this young buck has a chance of making it big? He had all the momentum behind him leading up to this fight, right? So getting the win might not have been the most impressive win, but if you look at it on paper, a second round finish, debut, that's all you need. That is all you need to move forward. And then you get the post-fight speech to go with it. I'm the new dog in the yard, and I just pissed all over the place. You sold me on that. You sold me on that. And then after the fights, I saw him tweet out, make cunt good again. Or like, make cunt great again. And here in America, I saw that, and I was like, what? Hold on, this is not a good idea. If you're trying to pick up new fans, that is not a good tweet to drop. But then I had some people from down under tweet me and say, no, Ed, you're wrong. It doesn't even mean the same thing down under. Matter of fact, you're insulting us right now. So I had no idea that there was any other way of taking that word, because it's really forbidden here. Like, if you use that word here, I didn't even want to say it. If anyone around here heard me say that, they'd all stop what they were doing and go, like, it's an offensive word. It's probably the most offensive word here in America right now. I mean, you can say the F word, you can say the B word. People are even getting used to saying other stuff, but that just doesn't flow here in America. So, you always learn something, and I learned something there, but I just thought that was a little risky on Israel's end of tweeting that out. But good for him moving forward. I'm excited to see what the UFC does with him. I hope they don't push him a little bit too fast. Obviously, still needs to develop as he goes. So, build him up with some of the younger stars in the division. I'm not saying feed him cans at all. He kind of reminded me of a Michael Venom Page, especially the style, like the hands up, even the hands down, just very risky, but very exciting to watch at the edge of my seat. So I'm looking forward to it. Might have not been the most exciting fight, but for what it stood for, and knowing that, he's coming into the UFC with all this momentum behind him, I was very interested in this fight. So he gets the finish in the second round. That's all you need, like I said. Moving on, and actually I'm going to be moving backwards. Let me start with Ross Pearson. I know I jumped ahead a little bit for everybody. That was the fight that was on my mind, though, the Israel fight. That was the one thing I'm probably going to remember from UFC 221 moving forward. There are some other really nice moments that did happen, and we're going to get to them in just a second. But let me just rewind, do this the way that we usually do it. Backing up, memorable fight on the undercard, undercard, I should say, on UFC Fight Pass. Ross Pearson, who was on a 4-fight losing streak going into this fight. Ross Pearson is in a 4-fight losing streak. Not 1, not 2, not 3, 4. 4-fight losing streak going into this fight. Usually at this point in a fighter's career, if they get 4 fights in a row where they've lost, usually you're getting the pink slip. You're not going to see that fighter for much longer after the 3rd, the 4th, and now he almost got into the 5th fight where he would have lost, and there would have been a guarantee see ya if that 5th fight did come about. But Ross Pearson did what it took. He says that that loss that he recently had really re-sparked his passion for the sport. Maybe that's what he needed. And Ross Pearson, with this 1-fight win under his belt moving forward, maybe it's what he needed to get the overhand and get a couple of wins back together. Let's not forget what Ross Pearson has done in his career. So, I'm not ready to write Ross Pearson off at all. The UFC has their reasons, obviously, whether it was his fight contract or whatever, but Ross Pearson has a really big name behind him, and you might see him going to Bellator soon, but I'm happy that he got this win, so congratulations to Ross Pearson. Moving forward for Miga with an amazing win, and he even goes home with $50K in his pocket from this win, spinning back fist that leads to really hurting Ben 10, and it could have been stopped at that moment. It probably should have been stopped at that moment, a matter of fact, but Formiga pounces on Ben 10 and sinks in the rear naked choke and finishes him off. And there was a couple of times in this fight where Formiga was really trying the spinning attack out, wasn't able to get it, and even Jimmy Smith, good eye on Jimmy Smith, by the way, calling this out in the fight. I think it was the 2nd round when it happened, that Jimmy Smith, he was like, there must be something that Formiga sees in Ben's game where he's trying to time this right, and it was the high kick. I believe it was the high kick, going back, thinking about it. He kept trying to do it, and he timed it perfectly, where he countered a high kick with the spin attack and landed it flush. It wasn't a slip. It was a clean connection to Ben 10 that really scrambled him, and like I said, could have been finished there, but wasn't. I definitely thought that was deserving of $50K. Unfortunately for Ben 10, going home with another loss. He had so much momentum behind him coming off that win. Tim Elliott, fortunately, 1 step forward, 3 steps backwards for Ben 10. So moving forward, we were like, what's going to be going on in this next fight with Kennedy and Volkanovski? Most people had a lot of these fights they really thought were going to end up in a decision. Who out there was saying that they had like most of the card figured out by decision? I believe it was BLT, Brock Lesnar's teddy bear, that was telling me. And I think I got like 8 or 9 of these fights. There was 12 bouts on the entire card, and I think he said he had like 7 or 8 of them going to decision, and it could have went that way. Like I said at the beginning of the podcast, this card did not look exciting on paper. There was no promotion behind it. That's a huge issue with the UFC. You're trying to sell a $60 product, but yet you're not showing it much love. You're not selling the story. Like, you don't have to make up a story. There's a storyline already set in place. You just got to sell the audience that there's a reason for them to tune in. And their big sticker that they're going to slap on there is just, oh, well, it's for the title. It's for the interim title, which is bullshit. And for those of you guys out there that don't know, if Yoel won this fight, he would not be winning the interim title. But if Luke did, he would. And the reason being, Yoel did miss weight, but Luke does pick up 30% of the purse, and it is a risk. It's definitely a big risk on Luke's part. And let me say this, Luke did not look good at the weigh-ins. I thought he looked awful. He didn't sound good. You guys might disagree, but this whole missing weight thing, you have to come in on weight as a professional in the UFC. You're losing 30% of your purse. That's a lot for these fighters to lose. So I think that's fair that the UFC adjusted it like that. 30% of your purse is a big chunk of it. But the UFC wasn't doing a good job at selling this fight, and the numbers that came back on Google, it was like the number 3 or 4 thing trending on Google, and I'm sure that was for people looking up for the free live stream. That, let me mention that too. The UFC really did a great job cracking down on Periscope, on all these Russian sites that were streaming the pay-per-views for free. Really cracked down on that. But the issue there is, why are you cracking down so hard on that when really, if people can't afford $60, they're going to go online, they're going to watch the fight, and then they're going to start talking about the fight. And when they go to work and they're talking with their coworkers about the fight, someone might be listening in and get interested. Just like people that love Netflix. You get people to talk at work about their Netflix show, people get interested. So I don't think that the UFC realizes that, yeah, we need to crack down, but we don't need to go super hard. Like, I could not find one single stream. People were tweeting me asking me if I could find a stream. And usually you can just go on, the sites that we usually go on and find a perfectly good live stream, no interruptions, took it all away. 2018 is not a good year for the pirates out there that are trying to legally stream these UFC pay-per-views. But really, it works for the UFC in the long run. It really does. Some might disagree. Some might freak out and yell at me about this. UFC, you are taking money out of the fighters' pockets in a way. But at the same time, there's people like John Dotson out there. And someone brought this point up to me. I think it was Eugene from Bloody Elbow, saying that, Dana White spending like $70,000 on swords, but yet he's stiffing John Dotson out of his pay. So me to make this argument of you shouldn't be pirating the UFC, it's just not right. I really can't say that because the UFC is not giving every dollar that they should to these fighters. In my mind, if you're a UFC fighter, you should be making an amazing living. You should be making more than the rappers out there that go in the studio and rap about nonsense. These people are making so much money just saying, ay, 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 and they get millions and millions and millions of dollars. But yet you have UFC fighters, you have mixed martial art fighters that have trained their whole lives, and you're selling out these huge arenas. You're selling however many millions per year of pay-per-view. And there's still fighters on the UFC contract that can't afford to live. They have to make GoFundMes and stuff like that. It's not right. It's not normal. You don't see this in baseball. You don't see this in football. You don't see this in any other sport. And if there is a sport that's as big as the UFC, that is being played on a huge network like Fox Sports, you should think that their athletes are very well taken care of. And they're not. And this is something that really surprised me when I became a fan of this sport back in high school. And then you see the UFC being sold for $4 billion, and they're cutting the roster, but yet they're still getting screwed. And there's all these issues with Reebok, and now Reebok is making new contracts saying that, all right, we'll give you guys more money, sure, but you have to promote Reebok more. What? Not only do I have to, and I'm talking about the fighters, not only do the fighters have to train and get ready for the fight, do media routes, but now they have to promote Reebok. And let me say this one thing before we go back on with UFC 221. I know I'm getting a little bit off track with this anger that I'm directing towards the UFC and paying them. But if you go into your local Reebok store, and take my word for this, go to your local Reebok store, go in there and say, go to the manager or whoever's there and say, I'm looking for the UFC fight kits. Can you show me where they are in the store? You know what they're going to say? We don't sell them here. We don't sell them at Reebok. You can only get that online. What? This happened to me. I went there. I wanted to get a Reebok kit. Carrie Stella from In the Girls Corner said, I was just at Reebok. They said they don't have it. So I went to check it out. I went to my local Reebok. They said the same thing to me. You have to go online to get a Reebok kit. So there is no love being shown from Reebok at all to even care about the UFC. Remember when the Reebok got the contract deal, they were misspelling fighters' names. Chris Cyborg, the #1 female fighter in the UFC, doesn't even have a UFC Reebok fight kit. It's just a shame. It's an absolute shame. Don't feel guilty that you're not buying these pay-per-views, is my point. All right, so moving forward, Volkanovski. I'm sorry I got a little sidetracked on that one. Volkanovski, man, what a machine he was, just going in there nonstop, relentless. Kennedy has never lost a fight in his entire professional career. He shut down Kyle Bochniak in his last fight. And if you see what Kyle Bochniak looked like a fight after that, even if it was, on a full camp finally, Kyle Bochniak looked absolutely phenomenal. So it made me question, how good is Jeremy Kennedy? He must be amazing. His wrestling is phenomenal. Well, he met his match Saturday night in Volkanovski. And Volkanovski, he was on the radar, but not really. Not up until I saw what he can do in the octagon Saturday night, because his 2 fights leading up to this, I believe, were all decisions. I'm not saying they weren't exciting fights. I'm not saying anything like that. But in the UFC, you need finishes to get noticed, really. You need amazing performances to get finished, unless you're beating a high-ranked guy and you did it in amazing fashion, won every single round. That was not the case. I don't believe. I mean, Volkanovski, whose radar was Volkanovski really on before this fight? And even if you missed this card, it's a shame, because I was hands down pumped to see where this guy's head's at after this fight in the post-fight press conference. And I'm really looking forward to who they're going to match this guy up against next. Volkanovski was just so dominant and gave Kennedy his first loss. And in that fight, watching that, he was just getting Kennedy, bringing him down over and over again, and just laying these huge power shots to the stomach, to the body, to the elbow, to the nose, to the chin, to the cheek, everywhere. And those all add up. And Kennedy just gave up. Like, there were a couple moments where he just shut down. The ref jumps in. He's like, you need to improve your position. And he would. But you can tell somewhere he wanted to give up. And finally, enough was enough. He just shut down. And it took a couple of extra shots. Like, you could tell he was physically and mentally just checked out of the fight. The ref could have stepped in, but ultimately, he steps in, finishes the fight, but there was just huge let out from Kennedy right before the ref stepped in, where he got punched in the stomach and just let out this whole, like, you could feel it, like it brought back to like backyard wrestling, where you just like get thrown over a chair. Like, it sounded painful. And for the viewers at home, a lot of people forget, like, at home when you're watching, you're only considering the headshots are painful. People don't realize how bad those body shots hurt, those liver shots. Those all add up, and those are very painful. Those leg kicks are not fun to get. I don't know if any of our listeners out there have ever received a leg kick, have ever been punched in the stomach over and over again, or even just tried to run in a circle for 5 minutes. It's exhausting. It is absolutely exhausting. And I felt so bad for Kennedy, and he was really just dominated by Volkanovski and really shut down the confidence, seemed like, in Kennedy after that first round, because it was just nonstop. Like, in the first round, I really thought that, maybe Volkanovski's pace was going to drop. Like, he came out with the Vitor Blitz, came out strong, and maybe that was all we are going to see. There's no way he can keep it going for another 2 rounds. This guy did not stop, not once. Just kept bringing the pressure. Hats off to Volkanovski on that amazing win against a very tough Kennedy, undefeated Kennedy. Hats off to Volkanovski. What did you guys think about the performance? Are you excited to see what he's going to do next in this weight division? Let me know on Twitter at evil_echo. That's EVIL_ECCO. Also on Instagram at PureEvilMMA. All right, so moving forward, we already talked about Israel. He was next after Volkanovski. And then there weren't really many memorable fights. There was the Jake Matthews fights. That was great. Jake Matthews looks absolutely amazing. Another fight that stood out on this card was Tuivasa. Now, this is a guy that was on my radar before coming to the UFC. He beat James McSweeney. And after that, I was like, who is this guy? And now he comes over to the UFC and he's making big splashes. He is such a heavy set guy, but yet he is so athletic. It's crazy. Like, he literally looks like somebody that just sits on the couch and really just doesn't do much. But he comes out, he starts throwing all these crazy kicks. It doesn't make sense. Like, he defies the laws of gravity almost. He comes out throwing these crazy spin kicks. Just doesn't look like he can do what he does. And it almost reminds me of like a Roy Nelson in a way. Like he's as big as Roy Nelson, but he's like Roy Nelson mixed with Yair Rodriguez, I guess. It's literally like that. It's literally Roy Nelson mixed with Yair Rodriguez. I'm looking forward to what he has moving forward. Another up-and-comer in that weight division. And that weight division needs young up-and-comers. Especially someone like that where it's exciting. Once again, don't want to see him push too fast. Don't want to see him be pushed the pace like they did with Francis. Give him a path like you gave Derek Lewis, where you slowly had to build him up because he's learning as he climbs those ranks. You're not just tossing him up there and just hoping for the best because he's marketable. Don't do that to this young guy. We got to Curtis Blades, who went up against Mark Hunt. Huge underdog in this fight. Mark Hunt fighting down, finally, I should say. Mark Hunt finally getting a fight. We all know what happened. And if you don't, previously, when Mark Hunt was trying to book a fight, it got pulled. Because Mark Hunt came out with these comments saying that he was having memory loss or slurred speech or something like that. It really alarmed the UFC. And you can't yell at the UFC for doing that either. I mean, Mark Hunt was so pissed. He's been going head-to-head with UFC on all these different issues. But this is one where I really do side with the UFC. They made the right decision here. You can't have your athlete going out there and saying these things and then give him a fight. Which is why I'm now surprised that Uriah Hall, they're trying to book Uriah Hall again. Uriah Hall just came out saying that he had a slight mini heart attack, slight mini seizure, and now you're going to book him a fight? This alarms me a lot, and I don't want to speak up too much about it because I don't want to raise the issue even more, because I know that Uriah Hall has a family to feed. But at the same time, if you're putting your life in danger here, it's questionable. It's very questionable why the UFC is allowing this to happen. Like I said, I don't want to speak too much on it because I don't want to be someone that raises the awareness of, why isn't the UFC doing anything? Because they should be doing something here. But maybe if the test results are coming through, the doctor is saying it's fine, that wasn't the case. Uriah Hall, message to Uriah Hall. Uriah Hall, you need to be careful with what you say. Even if you did have a slight mini heart attack, if there is such a thing, don't go out and say that in public. Tell the UFC that if that's what happened. Tell your team that. Don't say that in public because that's scary for us to hear and then think you're going to go in there and fight again at the highest level. It's very scary, so be very careful with what you have to say. But you know what? Mark Hunt gets the fight. Moving forward, obviously he gets passed by doctors and everything. They made sure that Mark Hunt is okay to fight. You know what? Mark Hunt fought a lot of dirty fighters coming up in his career. He's taken a lot of damage. So Mark Hunt going in there, underdog. It wasn't the most exciting fight, but Curtis Blades did what he had to do here. He needed to take out big name on the rankings where, I spoke with Curtis Blades after his loss to Francis Ngannou. And let me tell you guys, he was so upset. He wanted that fight back so bad. Remember, in that fight with Francis Ngannou, he was not happy that they called it. But he got busted up very bad. He had some really bad bruises on his face. I think there was a huge cut that was open that his face just took an absolute beating. They had to call that fight. But there's still warrior inside of Curtis Blades, just wanted to keep going. He felt like he had a chance to beat Francis, and he told me after that fight he thinks he could do it. So he's really just bitten down and gone into the gym and really has done what it has made leaps and bounds since 2 years ago. And with this win over Mark Hunt, it puts him in a perfect position now in that weight division. You get a win over somebody like Mark Hunt, that's a huge accomplishment. And here's the thing about Mark Hunt that is really upsetting if you're a Mark Hunt fan. Going into the UFC 200, you had Brock Lesnar announce that he was finally going to be coming back UFC 200, and he's going to be fighting Mark Hunt. Now you had all these UFC fans get behind Mark Hunt saying Brock's going to get his ass handed to him. Come fight night, you had all these people that backed up Mark Hunt. Like, this was really Mark Hunt's time to shine. Of course, Mark Hunt has been around for so long. Everybody knows who he is. But it really seemed like he had more momentum behind him than ever. More fans behind him, rooting him on than ever before in his career. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to get it done. And ever since then, I just felt like it's just been an upward climb for Mark Hunt, just trying to get back to that position and get that win, just can't do it. Moving forward, what happens to Mark Hunt? You know that Mark Hunt has all these issues with the UFC, so I don't know. I'm giving this to you guys. What's your opinion on this? Let me know on Twitter at evil_echo. That's EVIL_ECCO. And that finally gets us into our main event. Yoel Romero versus Luke Rockhold. Another fight where Yoel is going in the underdog and comes out on top. And just explosive performance once again. Yoel has this weird style where he goes in there and he kind of lulls you. Like, it seems like he's really tired and he just takes his time. And then he just comes forward swinging bows and just shocks you. And it works. It works every time. Going all the way back to his wrestling career, he's really had the same kind of performances. Like, if you go back to his, it's always been really slow and then explosive. He does what he has to do to win fights. Might not get the finish every time, but beating people like Chris Weidman with that flying knee at UFC 205, I'll never forget my stomach sinking. He just explodes, hits the knee, and then falls on the back of the head of Chris Weidman. It's like a double knockout. Between that fight, the fight with, what was it, Gegard Mousasi? No, not Gegard Mousasi. Well, even then, just this fight with Luke Rockhold. Lolling, and then exploding, pushing forward, and he clips Luke Rockhold, and Luke get rocked just like Betsko. Hey, somebody pointed it out. It took me a second. I was like, this looks like a very familiar knockout. I've seen this before recently. Holly Holm versus Betsko. Hey, it was the exact same knockout where the opponent got stunned and then just bounced his head off the canvas and lights out. It was almost like watching a video game in a way. It was very appealing to watch, and I hate watching fighters get knocked out, but there was just something about this knockout where it was like, oh my God, this just happened again. Luke Rockhold, it was like another Bisping knockout where he tags him and then tags him again, lights out. And it just keeps happening to Luke Rockhold. And the weird thing about all of this, and I don't even think Yoel cares. There's no interim fight. There's no interim belt. Yoel did not win the interim belt. But this should make him the number one contender. And the thing about that, thing that the UFC's got to put a hold on that is because who wants to see Robert Whittaker versus Yoel again? We just saw that fight for the interim title. Like, this is the second time Yoel's fought for the interim title. Now he's won, but he didn't win the interim title. But he won the number one contender spot. This day and age, that's the same thing. They are two in the same. Your interim title and your number one contender are the same. Don't get it mixed up. Because the UFC is just trying to trick the casual fans out there by smacking on that sticker of saying that this is a championship fight and that this fight means something. It might mean something, but you don't have to put the championship sticker on it for it to mean something. It's still the fight for the number one contender. So don't get it mixed up. This is not the real champion. Robert Whittaker is the real champion. Yeah, he's injured, but I'm pretty sure he's back in the gym right now. It's not like he's been out for a year and a half or 2 years. The fighter who is holding the belt, if you were going to make an interim title, he better be injured or there better be a very good reason why he can't fight. It shouldn't be because he doesn't want to. It shouldn't be because he wants to box. You are on contract. If that 2-year mark comes up and you have not fought, definitely strip. You need to be stripped. What do you guys think about this? There is just a huge mess out there with all these interim titles. It's confusing. I've been going back and forth with a lot of fight fans on Twitter. So if you want to jump in the conversation, jump in it at evil_echo. That's EVIL_ECCO. Use hashtag PureEvilMMA. We have some UFC Pickem announcements to... Well, we have some, not announcements. We have some UFC Pickem winner. We have a UFC Pickem winner to announce. So let's get into that.
Since 1993, MMA fighters from all over the world have gone into battle, shedding blood, sweat and tears to prove that they are worthy of holding the title of champion. At every UFC event, as the fighters throw down in the octagon for our entertainment, each hoping to validate that they are the best by someday having a UFC belt strapped around their waist. A second competition rages amongst the Pure Evil army for the right to lay claim to the prestigious Crystal Skull belt, for ultimate Pickem bragging rights over their evil brothers and sisters in arms. And this week, after climbing their way to the top of the pure evil ranks, the prominent honours of the Crystal Skull are awarded to...
Thank you, Minion. This week, our Crystal Skull Crystal Belt is awarded to Golped E. Potterweb. So congratulations, you came in first place this week, and there's some tough competition. Let me tell you, I only won 8 for 12, and I came in like 5th or 6th place, I believe. So congratulations to Golped E. Potterweb. That's at GOLPEDEPODERWEB. And if you want a chance to have your name announced on next week's episode of Pure Evil MMA, just message me on Twitter at evil_echo. Let me know that you want to join the league, and if you're already in it, better luck next week, guys. Congratulations. All right, so before we end today's show, just a quick reminder, guys. The Performance of the Night bonuses went to Formiga, Israel, and Matthews versus Jing Liang. Those were the Performance of the Night winners, going home with $50K each. And make sure you guys subscribe down below here on Pure Evil MMA. You can find all the Pure Evil MMA content at mymmanews.com, along with all of the live results during fight night. Like I said, I'll be at Bellator this week from Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So if you guys have questions for Matt Mitrione, Liam McGeary, Roy Nelson, let me know on Twitter or Instagram at Pure Evil MMA. That's my Instagram. Twitter, obviously, is evil_echo. Like I say 13 times an episode. Guys, congratulations on Pickem. Even if you didn't come in first, I appreciate everybody that has joined in along the past 2 years that we've been doing this. In 2018, I opened the doors for everybody to join. So if there's anyone out there that isn't a part and would like to join, all you have to do is message me, and I will send you the link for UFC Pickem. It's via UFC.com, the fantasy league. It's a lot of fun. The point system, it's all explained on UFC.com. And you can join the Pure Evil MMA Podcast League to hear your name announced. So I think that's pretty cool. So congratulations to Golped Potterweb. What a crazy name. I wonder if it's a podcast, another podcast. Golped E. Potterweb? Crazy name. But guys, new merch is up at teespring.com/pureevil. All the money will go towards the podcast. I'll get new equipment up in here. We got the new microphone, new webcam, and stuff like that. Everything goes towards the show. I really appreciate it. And you can have your own streetwear to go and support Pure Evil MMA podcast out there. Talk amongst with your friends. Show them we're the best podcast in the world. No, I shouldn't go that far. But I think that we have a pretty great show here. And like I said, we're going to be having Lauren Murphy on this week. Saul Rogers is going to be checking in either this week or next week. Mean Bean Romero, I'll be speaking with him later on today. So he'll be on the next actual episode. This is just a recap show, but he'll be on the actual episode of Pure Evil MMA. So I'm looking forward to that. He came out of retirement, so this is a big fight. I'm really looking forward to it, and it's going to be the rematch between him and his rival. So we have a lot to talk about there. So if you want to catch that, all you have to do is press that subscribe button. And don't forget, we're having the giveaway. Not just one. You know what? I'm going to give away 2 prizes for this giveaway. And all you have to do is leave a review. That's it. It will take 2 seconds to leave a review, and you can have a chance to win the Pure Evil MMA logo, and I will send it right to your doorstep. That's right, right to your doorstep, anywhere in the world. I've sent t-shirts out before. I had Rick Glenn, send me t-shirts to give to you guys. This time, I'm going to print out some really nice big pictures of the Pure Evil MMA logo, and I'll send it to 2 lucky listeners out there, or viewers, whether you're watching this on YouTube or listening on PodBean, iTunes, Stitcher. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I had a blast once again recapping another UFC event, and really, when it comes down to it, this event was so much better than what it looked like on paper, in my opinion. And to rate this card really quick, I asked you guys, and 43% of you guys out there rated this card between an 8 and a 7. 38% of you guys said between a 6 and a 5. 11% between 10 and 9, which I thought was really surprising on that end. 8% gave it from 4 to 1. So this was all over the place. If I have to rate tonight's card, or Saturday's card, I'm giving it a 6. That's what I'm going to be rating this card. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm Evil Eddie from Pure Evil MMA, mymmanews.com. Have a great week, and behave yourselves.